I had a phenomenal conversation with the indie game legend Dave Gilbert, the creator of Unavowed, the Blackwell series, and his latest project, Old Skies, which is still in production after 5 long years. Dave's story is so relatable. He started similar to perhaps yourself, not really knowing how to make games or where to begin. We talk about his journey, why staying small was so important to him when he first started, why having a thick skin is, well, so important when the rest of the world seems to dislike your games. We talk about overcoming fear of failure as a game dev. Perhaps you can relate. We talk about the future of the game industry and a ton more. Oh, and really quickly, by the way, this video is sponsored by myself. I sponsor my own videos sometimes. It's sponsored by Full-Time Game Dev. If making indie games full-time is a dream of yours in 2025, I could teach you what I've done. I've signed 3 publishing deals for my commercial indie games, along with getting funded multiple times on Kickstarter. I've also hit the Steam front page multiple times, so I want to show you how I've done this and ultimately make games in Unity, Godot, Unreal, 2D or 3D. You can honestly take your pick in the course. You'll also learn how to market your game so it brings in actual money and so much more. For the next 7 days, Full-Time Game Dev is 40% off for the massive spring sale. And this only happens once a year. This is a big one. Join 4,500 students worldwide, and I'll also throw in my 2D and 3D art programs completely free, but only for this sale event. And also there's only 100 seats available. These will sell out, so be sure to check it out below if you're interested. We start out this conversation with his origin story as a game dev. September 11th, when the Twin Towers fell near his apartment in New York City.
The towers went down, and I was in no frame of mind to be like looking for a new job right away. I just didn't even want to leave my apartment. So I was looking for a way to kind of creatively vent and just do something with like, well, if I'm not going to like push myself to like get out there and find a new job, I want to do something like worthwhile. Yeah. So I discovered Adventure Game Studio, and I made a little game in a weekend just for fun, and people seemed to like it. And I just kept making them. And eventually I did find another job, but I just kept making the games for fun. And I made about 4 or 5 freeware games over the next like 4 or 5 years. And then I just decided I didn't want to do anything else. And I managed to somehow make it work. I was laid off again. Well, not laid off. Actually, I had left my job. I had left my job to teach English in Korea for a year. Yeah. And when I came back, I had money saved up for my time away, and I didn't want to get a real job right away. So to put it off, I just started writing another game because I'm like, what else am I going to do with my time? And then when that was done, I decided to try selling it to see where it would lead me. And I've been doing that ever since.
Where did you sell it?
Back then, God, this was 2006. So Steam didn't exist. My brother-in-law made this little payment site for me, and it was so janky. And back then, it's quaint to remember, like, no one it was scary to put your credit card on the internet. Yeah. No one would do it, right? And so I didn't get a lot of sales. People would the website he created for me allowed people to pay through PayPal, which people did. Mm-hmm. They were beginning to trust it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I would get paid through PayPal, and people would send me like currency. They send me the cash in the mail, but sometimes in like other currencies. And
wait, the mail? They would send it in the mail? Cash? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like weird foreign currencies. I shouldn't say weird, but like I didn't even know like what kind of money it was. And I would just like go across town to get it changed. And the game cost $5. I don't know why I even bothered, because by the time it barely paid for the subway right over there.
That's crazy.
It was just whatever it took to get it done. And I just it was a weird time because I honestly did not expect it to go anywhere. I thought I was just putting off the inevitable, like, oh, I'm going to have to like get a real job soon. I'm going to have to go back to get some boring corporate job and, hate myself again.
Yep.
But I managed to just keep going. I managed to keep it going, and I managed to get another game out and another, and things just eventually snowballed until I was able to do it. Until I wasn't faking it anymore. I was like,
right.
Okay, this is something real. This is a legit business. I'm just going to keep going, and I've been doing that ever since.
So, for me, it was the story's a little bit different, and I want to ask you about this. The moment you got where you realized, okay, I can do this full time. For me, it wasn't gradual or slow. Mm-hmm. It was like bang, $100,000 available to me.
Oh,
to
wow.
go full time. So that was Kickstarter. So I did a Kickstarter campaign for one of my games.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time, I think 2009 is when I started making games, and it was through Newgrounds. So you were sort of, I guess, moving into getting checks in the mail. That was 2006, right?
Yeah, 2009. Okay. I wasn't on Steam yet, but I was selling the games through. I discovered I guess it was the equivalent of Humble. There was a service called BMT Micro where you could put your game on there. It was a payment provider. That's the term. And so people would put their card. They would buy the game through them. Yep. And so that's how I would sell the games back then through BMT Micro. Gotcha.
So yeah. So for me, it was it wasn't without a ton of hard work and stuff to be able to go full time, but it was doing Flash games, but it was this big final moment where $100,000 came in, and I knew, oh, I can do this full time. So I quit my job. What was it like for you? What was the process like for you, bless you, when you went full time? Was it this moment when you realized it?
You're very lucky, you're probably very smart, because for a lot of people, getting all that money all at once when they never had that before, it suddenly seems like infinity.
Yep,
and then they blow it all. They just because they don't know how to. They don't know how to. It just seems like infinity. So oh yeah, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. I'm going to spend all this money on this. I'm going to get the best artist, the best this. License all this music, and then they spend it all and it's gone. And that's very, very common. Yeah. And so I didn't have that. So I had to with every game it sold a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I think it helped that my first few games were very, very small. The first game I sold commercially, the Shiva, was tiny. It takes maybe an hour tops to play through. It's small.
Really?
Yeah.
Looks amazing. I love it. It looks awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the next game I did after that, I think the Blackwell Legacy, was also quite small. And even it took no time to make because I had no money to work with. And so I hired people to work for ludicrously low amounts of money, but I'm enthusiastic. I'm yeah, this is awesome. But
you're a good salesman.
There's only not just that. There's only so long that can last.
Yes.
There's only so long. If you're working on dragging something on for 2 years, 3 years, that enthusiasm is gonna wane. That can't be sustained. So I knew I had very little money. I had little money in the bank account, little money to make the games, and little money to pay people. So I had to keep the development times very, very short.
Yes.
And whoops! This is that was my reminder that we were going to have an interview here because we started a bit early. So
yes,
that was
did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
What was I going to say? Yeah. So
tiny budgets.
I kept the time frame, the budgets, and the scopes extremely small.
Yeah.
And I can't say this was intentionally smart. It was just all I could do because I was just putting off the inevitable, but I really wanted to make it work. I really wanted to get games out and get people talking about them. I wanted that feedback. I wanted that back and forth with the players, and I knew people knew me from the freeware scene, and so I was able to kind of work the networks I had there to get people to help me. Yeah. And I did pay them a little bit. I didn't pay much, and God bless them all for being willing to work with me for what little I could pay back then, because I could not pay very much. But no one knew who I was, so I wouldn't do that now. But back then it was whatever it took to get it done. Yeah. The games were small, they were janky, but they got done. And I was able to kind of grow organically. Each game was progressively, more complex, a little bit bigger, took more time. It just kind of, it just organically grew.
Right.
Like I could probably go to Kickstarter and get like $100,000 for a project, most likely.
You probably could.
But would I be able to go back? If that first game doesn't work, will I be able to go back again for another $100,000 or another $100,000?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's possible, and that uncertainty kind of makes me hesitate from trying it myself. One of the developers we published went to Kickstarter and it succeeded, but I don't know if I'd want to do that myself.
Yeah.
But I like being in a position where it's like we just grew very organically. And so I feel like I have at this point, almost 20 years in, I have a very strong foundation.
Yeah.
And so because people know our whole back catalog. And because the early games are very small and manageable, I was able to learn from them a little bit faster. Like I didn't blow all my time and all my money and all my energy on one project lasting several years. And so all the mistakes I made, I could figure out what they were very quickly.
Yeah.
And I was able to just apply all that to the next game. And so I was able to iterate faster while earning money, while building a reputation, while, the scene was so different back then because I don't even know if the term indie developer existed. It was still very much in its infancy. Like Braid was still the hot new thing.
Yeah.
And, World of Goo was like this new hotness. But like, there were so few of these games being made that even though no one was paying attention to them, the people who did pay attention would notice.
Yes.
Because and especially having working in New York, doing them out of New York, I didn't realize at the time, but since like all the journalists and all the folks I met were other New Yorkers, I became like, it was like it was a tiny pond, but it was one like that everyone was looking at because it's New York, right? And I think that helped me as well. Little things help me. So there's so much luck that goes into play.
Yeah.
I would never say that it was all due to my genius. Never. So many like the dice rolled in just the right way so many times.
Right.
But I'm kind of glad that I started that way, and I didn't start with someone giving me a huge check.
Yeah. So
I
you
wouldn't have
started
known
in
what
this.
to do with it.
Yeah,
I would have blown it all. I would have been like,
it was scary for me too. I mean, I fortunately I was and am married, but we were newlyweds, and so I was supporting her through school, and so I was very paranoid with the money. And I didn't hire anybody. I was just super frugal.
You want to keep as much of it as you can.
Yeah, and I made it last. And that I think, yeah, you're right. I think most game developers, they're probably not thinking that way, unless they have like a family to support. And having that
especially
really
if
helps.
You're not used to having that kind of money.
Yeah,
it must seem like infinity.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine. Like the first time I was published by someone, and the budget felt like infinity. Like, oh my God, you're paying me this much to make this game? They didn't give it to me all at once. Yeah. It was all parceled out by milestones, and thank God for that. Because I realized, like, as I was like doing the math and making Excel sheets and like trying to work out like how much I personally would be getting from this budget, I realized it wasn't very much. Nope. And I'm like, I gotta cut down the scope of this thing because
that's right.
Like I've completely gone out of scope here, and I had to because it was parceled out. I really did have to budget it. I mean, that was smart of them. But yeah, like that's a danger. But
I feel like it's really funny how
you should be very proud that you didn't fall into that trap.
Yeah, it's funny because every single publishing deal I've signed, when I sign the deal, I feel like I'm stealing money from the publisher. Like I feel this sense of like, this is too much. I feel like they're giving me too much money. I'm nervous that I'm not going to deliver like what they expect. Then a year later, I'll look back and say, no, it wasn't enough.
You've just described every publisher developer relationship.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, as a publisher, like as a publisher, I'm a little unusual because I don't give money most of the time.
Yeah. Support.
I do a lot of other things that traditional publishers don't do, but I can't really afford to give money. Like I'll give a lot of personal time and like the experience, and like I'll do like the voice acting and help in a lot of areas and do all the marketing and sales stuff and kind of take care of it once it's done.
Yeah.
But I can't give you money. I wish that was like, that's the one thing you usually want a publisher for, and that's the one thing I normally can't give.
No, I mean, here's the thing though. You've built this amazing brand, and I want to talk about this and sort of shift gears, discuss universe building and brand building and back catalogs. Like I look at what you've built. Do you think you've built something?
This whole time, I'm just going to say, I've been trying to find a position so the light doesn't reflect off my glasses.
Yeah.
I'm just going to own it. So everyone watching this, you're just going to deal with this. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm sitting here going like this.
You're still thinking about that.
Like, I'm just trying to find the position. Forget it. Y'all just deal with it.
It's great.
Sorry.
I can't.
You will not see my eyes. I'm sorry. I started to interrupt. It's been driving me crazy this whole time.
That's hilarious. I think I haven't even, dude, Dave, I haven't even noticed. Seriously. Okay. I think it's fine.
Yeah. It's something I notice every single time I do an interview or I'm in a meeting. I'm like, what's stupid window? Go away.
Maybe I can do that with you. There we go.
There we go. Solidarity. Thank you.
There we go. Hey, so I want to talk about this idea of building a brand or like a universe. Like I feel like I was talking to Thomas Sala, and he made a game called The Bulwark Chronicles and also a game called The Falconeer. And
I've heard of them. I haven't played them.
Both of these games are incredibly they're well defined and precise in his brand. Like they're part of the same universe. They look the same. They're different genres, but they're part of the same universe. And his thought process is, I want to build a brand and a universe and slowly acquire an audience with every game, so that every game is delivering what a previous game delivered, so that the audience sort of sticks around. And I'm looking at your portfolio and I'm thinking that's got to be happening with you, right? You get returning players. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, at first, like I said, it was very gradual. When it was really hard to sell my first game, and I'd be pushing it constantly. Cause like back then cause mainstream, websites and press wouldn't write about me. They would hardly write about indie games in general, let alone like an indie point and click like what I was doing. And so what I would do was I would approach any blogger, when those existed, or YouTuber that was beginning to be a thing. Anyone who showed any interest in reviewing or talking about any indie game, I would write them and be like, "Here's a copy of my game. Would you, you're welcome to review it." And so I just kept pushing it. I would write press and distributors or whatever. I would just constantly be pushing this little game, and I would only see the numbers tick up a little bit. It was very, very frustrating seeing the needle only move like a little bit, like 20, maybe I get like 10 sales this month or 20 this next month or whatever. It was just a little bit, but then I would release the next game and then suddenly it's like, oh, all these people are coming back. That gradual, all those folks who like slowly, the trickle of people who all bought the game over like the period of 1 year, they all came back for the next one. And so I got all of that at once, and that was really gratifying.
Yeah, sure.
And so like rinse and repeat for several more games. Because back then, like I said, short development times, because and if the games took longer than a year to make, I was in trouble. I needed to get stuff out pretty quickly.
Really?
And that sort of accounts for why how prolific we were in the first like half of Wadgetai's existence versus the latter half. But so it was like I said, it was just a slow organic rise of fans.
Would you recommend that approach? Because everyone listening right now, I think probably 90% of the people listening right now are probably they see what you're doing. And they see what I am doing, and it's like this dream, the ability to make games and do it full time from your home and just come up with crazy ideas and put them into a game. It's a dream come true for people. And so they're probably, if I were listening to you, I'd want to know, what is your advice? If you were trying to teach, do you have kids, by the way?
I have one. I have a daughter. Yeah. If you were to teach your daughter and give her a roadmap to like how to get where you are,
How do people do that nowadays? 'Cause
Honestly,
it's different, right?
it's so different. And this is like, I love and hate this question because I love talking about the early days. Like it was this kind of very, I had no money, but it was this very, I was single, living alone in this little apartment, but I was in the East Village of New York City, and I was like working in cafes all day, living this bohemian lifestyle. But at the same time, I don't know if you could do that now. Things are so different. It's like I said back then, the trick was getting people to just notice indie games in general.
Yeah.
Now there's just so damn many.
There's so many.
And so it's, even now I find myself, back then, if like a little blogger wrote about my game, I felt like, oh yeah, like that felt like I reached someone. Now I'd like shout onto Twitter or Blue Sky or any of those places, and I feel like I'm shouting into a freaking black hole. I feel like like one person comments, on some dinky website, back in 2006, that was great. That felt great. Now that feels like nothing. And it's so hard to like reconcile the two. Like how I started, I could tell you a lot of ways to get started in 2006. How you start now, I don't know, because every step I take now is based on the fact that I've been doing it for 20 years.
So you have that built-in audience, the credibility, people in the press.
I do think that starting small is important because I think like you have to start somewhere, and you don't want to sap all of your energy.
Yep.
And if I think of this game I'm releasing in a few months is taken,
what's it called?
5 years. Old Skies.
Skies.
And it's taken me
5 years.
I know. I mean, admittedly, a chunk of that was taken up by lockdown and the pandemic, but still, it's a long time. But I did publish some other games in the interim, so there was that. But it's a long time to be on any project. And if this was my first game, and if it's a colossal failure, if it was my first game, that's it. Like I would be done. I had nothing left in the tank.
Yep.
But now, I knock on wood. Hopefully, I don't expect it to bomb. But if it does, I have like a back catalog and my experience to fall back on.
Yes.
So I won't be completely finished. I'll be able to keep going. I mean, it'll suck and I'll be sad, but I'll be able to keep going. So that's always like, you can't start with like your big epic dream game. That is just, that's just asking for trouble. My first game was tiny, and it was a game that was talked about more than played, and that's fine.
That's fine.
Like it was like, you have to start somewhere. You get a few people talking, and then you just do something else. And then I think that is a, I'm sorry, 1 second.
You're fine.
Sweetie, Evie. Okay. If you keep doing that, you're going to have to go watch upstairs. Okay. All right. 'Cause I'm in a meeting. All right. No. Do you understand? Okay. Sorry about that.
That's adorable. Yeah. No, I won't. Okay. I think it's adorable. I love
President's Day. She's off from school.
Isn't that funny? I was talking to my wife. We were like,
oh, we have a friend. Hello.
The
Look
kids.
At this guy.
Oh, hello. What's his name?
His name is Oliver.
Oliver. Good to meet you, Oliver. Yeah, I was just talking to my wife about how my daughter's home from school as well. It's like they get so many days off from school. Like my daughter, she gets off like every other week.
It certainly feels like it.
So anyway, yeah. Hey, so what were we talking about? We were talking about Old Skies. And okay, so I'm looking at it right now, and I was looking at it before we recorded. It's freaking gorgeous. Like it's so good. And I want to ask you, because I know how it feels to work on a game for 5 years, by the way. I worked on a game for 5 years, and it did great. I think it definitely brought in like a couple years of full-time income afterwards, and it was great. It's called Pinstripe, and it was very narrative heavy. But I felt this strange sense of guilt when I was making on it. Like, why am I still working on this thing?
The time just slips away, doesn't it?
I know. You wonder, like, am I losing it? Like, am I losing that creative energy or the productivity I've had?
So
how do you feel?
To say that, because it's because like I always think of it as like everyone's got their favorite movie, But if you watched it on repeat for years, you will hate it.
That's right.
And that's what if you're working on like any kind of project, you're always thinking about it. And it's basically like having that movie on repeat forever, and you will hate it. And it's just, it feels, it can really do a number on your brain.
That's right.
If you let it, the longer something sits with you, the more you'll begin to doubt that it's any good. Because you're so familiar with it and you're so sick of it, you don't think that anyone else is going to like it because you can't approach it fresh anymore. And especially since like I was so prolific at the beginning of my career, where I'd have a game out in 4 months. I mean, I nearly killed myself to do it.
Yeah.
And it was a small game, but my first. I remember the Blackwell Legacy towards the last week of production, stumbling out of my apartment at 2 a.m. for to get some pizza or something because I hadn't eaten all day, and thinking, well, I know I'm not going to sleep tonight. I know I didn't sleep last night. Did I sleep the night before? I can't remember. And that's not a good way to live.
No.
I mean, maybe in short bursts, but you can't sustain that.
Well,
and
in your 20s, right? Like
I was 30.
Oh, you were.
I started late.
Were you married at the time?
No.
Okay, so you could get away with it.
Yeah. Well, just like the technology. I keep wondering, like, it would have been great if I started this when I was. Sorry, I got it.
You're fine, dude.
Attacking my chair.
You're fine.
It would have been great if I started this, in my early 20s, but the technology just didn't exist back then. And so I'm okay with that. Like I'll just accept that I brought some experience to the projects. And
So how are you feeling right now? Like I'm looking at Old Skies and I'm like, this is your best looking game. It's
Thank you.
It looks expensive.
I mean,
the illustration is just rock solid.
I mean, it's just a matter of, the budget is just about the burn time, because I have an artist who just, I work with an artist. I shouldn't say he's not my artist.
No, I don't think
the
anyone
artist
thinks that.
I hired. His name is Ben Chandler. Amazing guy. He's done
Sweet.
all the art for most of our games over the last 11 years or so. And he's brilliant. And so he wanted to do a higher resolution game. Yeah. And so I said, okay. And so he's just, it just takes longer. It just took longer to do it. So the budget, the expense is mostly in the extra time that it took. Yeah. But also it took me a long time to design the whole thing. Like since it took longer to do the art, I maybe took that extra time to spend perfecting the design. And it also it was time travel. I wouldn't recommend doing a time travel story to anyone.
That's so funny.
It can break your brain, and
I've heard that.
Mine many times. And so I was grateful for the extra time it took to do the art, because then I could take the extra time and polish the story and the design and make sure it was fun. Get it tested a lot. Yeah. Anytime I made a bit of incremental progress, I would prototype it, get it in front of testers, get feedback, incorporate it. I just wanted to make sure it was fun, and people got it and enjoyed it before moving on. And so that was what took so long, is the iteration and the testing. And all that.
I look at your portfolio, and I don't think have you ever launched a bad game? I know that's a really blunt question, but I'm looking at your portfolio. I'm like, I don't think there's any games here that are less than very positive.
I mean, there's some which normally people haven't heard of because they didn't do well.
So don't bring them up now, Thomas.
They're games that have fortunately, it's I'm always willing to take a risk on something most of the time. Yeah. And so it depends. Well, it depends on my situation. If I am feeling flush from a recent success, and someone approaches me with a project where there's not a lot of financial or time investment. Yeah. I'll okay, let's go for it. Why not? That was Primordia. That was Gemini Rue. That was Strangeland. Golden Wake was one of those. There was a game called The New Guys, which was one of those. And some of them did better than others. But would never say I regret publishing any game,
Yeah.
because I like them for a reason, and so I'm happy. I'm happy to have all of them.
Well, the reason I bring it up, you've got this really strong track record. And by the way, when I'm looking this way, I'm listening. I'm looking at your portfolio.
I figured,
yeah. And I'm looking here. I'm like, where are the bad reviews? And there's not. I see very positive. There's one with mixed or mostly. No, there's one with mostly, but everyone else is very to overwhelmingly positive on Steam, which is just like, that is so hard to pull off. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But
thank you.
This makes me think about your next game. It's 5 years down the road, right? It's been 5 years since your last big release, right?
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear?
Oh gosh, my biggest fear. I say it has been 5 years since my personal big release.
Yes.
But we have published 2 other games in the interim. There was
Right.
Strangeland in 2021,
Yeah.
and then there was the Excavation of Hobbs Barrow in 2023, which did incredibly well. So like, we haven't been completely idle, but my personal project has taken a long time, and also been working on Nighthawks. Sometimes I have to take time off from Old Skies to pivot onto Nighthawks. But
would you say that Old Skies it's the deepest representation of who you are as an artist right now?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like yes, because I feel like sometimes when you're creating something, and this is how I feel about any creative work or anyone doing any creative work at all, is that it always has to come from somewhere. And you might not realize what it is you're saying or what this thing is about or why you're driven to make this specific thing. You might not know what it is, but it's there. There is a reason why you're driven to do something or make something. Like I had this idea to make a time travel story. I really wanted to make a time travel story. And it took me a while before I realized what I wanted to do with time travel, like why it appealed to me. And I think that once I finally nailed that, that's when it became really personal. And that's when it became something that like I found myself putting a lot of myself into. Yeah. And I think the false starts I had at the beginning, it was 2020, and so I wasn't thinking clearly. And I spent all of 2020 trying to make this idea work, not getting anywhere. Yeah. And then finally just accepting this is crap. I'm going to start over.
Was this your 3D Unity game, Dave?
No.
No, okay, so that's a different one. Sorry.
Unity, we were working in Unity for maybe 2 months.
Okay.
People always bring this up. It's like we spent 2 weeks trying.
I see.
We hated every minute of it, and we gave up. Because it's like it turned out there's a lot more like to making a 3D game than we thought, and at least at the level we wanted to make it.
I see.
And, no, this was just standard 2D AGS adventure game.
Okay.
But just the story wasn't working, the characters weren't working, nothing was working, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to scrap this idea. I still want to do time travel. I like the character. What I need to either figure out why I want to do this or do something else entirely. And so I just took a week off completely and then sat down and just started hashing out what it was I liked about the project. And I kind of nailed it. I finally figured it out. Like I realized it was about, I was very, like the story beats that I was able to like when I was trying to design the game and trying to make this like big epic story work, the theme I kept coming back to was legacy. Characters who were worried about what they were going to leave behind, what their mark was on the world, and that kind of thing. And when I realized that, I would look at my notes and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should make that the theme of the game and explore that with time travel. And that is kind of where I landed. And so it's like, that's just it. It's like, I'm also at that age, not that old, but it's like, you start to wonder.
You start thinking about it. Yeah.
You start thinking about that stuff, is like, was my life worthwhile? And, what am I leaving behind? Will people remember me? Does it even matter? If you could go back and change it, would you? What if you suddenly had no legacy? That kind of thing. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is it important? Whatever. And so I kind of was playing with those ideas. And I think Old Skies is sort of episodic in that it's like it tells 7 different stories of time travel, and each one is pretty standalone, but there is an arc that kind of pervades through all of them. But that sort of enabled me to kind of tell different versions of the story, and I found myself really enjoying doing that when it was coming from a personal place. And I think if you manage to do that, I think the audience will sense that, because it creates a sincerity that cannot be faked. And because if I am not connected to what I'm making, it's basically I'm phoning it in, and that lack of sincerity is pretty obvious, and often the reviews and the sales reflect that in the end. So a lot of my effort is put into trying to make that connection, try to create that emotional connection in myself. I believe very strongly about in that. But at the same time, I don't think my next game can take 5 years. It's just it's too long, way too long, especially when now I'm worried, okay, this game, if it, like I said, it'll be okay if it doesn't sell, but at the same time it's I really want it to, because otherwise was this worth it? I
know it makes you feel like you went through a portal and you have to do it all over again.
People are gonna play it, and regardless of all the time and effort and emotional angst I put into it, people are still going to tell me it sucks. There are people who are still going to hate it. I released a demo last week, and I've gotten some comments. They're like, I don't like the interface. I don't like this. The character walks too slow. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, and that, I was unprepared. I'm like, I forgot what it was like. You could get 100 glowing comments that praise your stuff to the high hills, but it's that one negative comment that'll stick in your brain all day and make you hate yourself. And and I guess oh wow, I forgot what that was like. All right, welcome back.
So you released the demo last week. What day did you release? Was it Wednesday or
Wednesday? Yeah,
that's when I launched my game my demo. Yes, and so Twisted Tower has been in development for 3 years, and I just want to reflect how you're feeling, because I'm 3 years in the hole. It's a hole right now, in the sense that it's I haven't made any money off this thing. I've only spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. My publisher, they've spent money on it. We've had 5 or 6 different people working on this thing, and all it is a hole right now. There's no profit. That's what it feels like. There's no profit. There's nothing. And so when you launch the demo, it's this moment of, this actually really matters, because if they don't like the demo, why would they want to play the rest of the game? And it's terrifying. And so when I launched it last week, we had a lot of people like it, and this was the first 2 hours, but then we had a ton of people pissed off because the controls were messed up. And we did 2 months of QA, and it's about a month to 2 months. I can't really remember. It might have been 6 weeks. Anyway, we did all this QA. This problem about the controls never came up once. And then we launch it, and it's all I see. And it's how did I miss this?
There was something we did in the Old Skies demo. The very first puzzle, which is barely even a puzzle. That's
what you think, right?
Because it's there's this locked. You land in the 1870s, and you're in this alleyway with with a locked fence, and you're with this woman who's this brawny boxer type. The door is locked, and it's locked from the outside. You're inside the alley, and so you talk to her. You're like, "Could you boost me over?" She's like, "I got a better idea." She just kicks the door open, and it's a parallel to an earlier puzzle in the game where you need to get boosted over and unlock it from the outside. And so, there's a character. There's your handler, in the future, who you can talk to, and he's basically a hint system. And if you ask him, I'm stuck in this alley, and he says, "Oh, didn't you have this weren't you in the situation before? What did you do then?" But the demo starts, at this point, and I didn't even occur to me to like test the hint system.
Yeah.
Because it had always worked before. So like people, like they're trying to figure out how to get out of the alley. They ask him for a hint, and he says, "What did you do before?" And the testers are like, "I don't know."
Man.
Oh my God, you could just go through, it's this one stupid thing you just don't think about.
Sure.
And it kicking myself, but
I had somebody, speaking of comments that stick out, the negative ones are always the ones that are in my head, none of the positive ones. Someone commented on my YouTube, I did a YouTube video about how the demo launch went, and I said, it started rough, but it ended up amazing, and it's actually doing incredible right now. And one of the comments, somebody said, I don't want to put them on blast, but what they said was something like, Thomas is so full of it, or he's so wrong, he doesn't even know how to release a game with proper controls. Shouldn't you have figured this out during the QA phase? And I'm sitting there going, if you've released a game, you know exactly what it's like to release it, and one bug everybody finds, and it's the one that you couldn't find.
Yeah. I always say if none of the testers find it, it'll be like a prominent. It'd be the first journalist to play it. We'll find it. The first reviewer will find that bug.
Yep.
And if not, it's always going to be a really prominent voice. Yeah. I think Rihanna Pratchett, of all people, who I adore and admire, she's great. She found the game bugged out on her, Unavowed bugged out on her, and the opening menu, and I'm like, of all people, I'm so sorry. I know exactly why it happened, but it's just, it just happens. And it's like, you, at that point, but people, I often hear, I'm free to express my opinion on stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you're free to express your opinion, but I'm also free not to engage. It's I think this happened with Ron Gilbert when he announced the return of Monkey Island. No relation, by the way.
I was going to ask.
Nope. And a lot of people were really just laying into the art style, and he disabled comments on his own website, and I do not blame him one bit.
Yep.
Because it's he doesn't have to engage with that. I don't think people realize it's even if it's a well-meaning bit of feedback, it could be innocuous. There was when you're deep in the trenches, when you're stressed out, right? Making a game is hard.
It's so stressful,
hard.
Dude.
It's anything. People could comment on a misplaced apostrophe, and it sounds like a personal attack. There was someone, I think, who was he criticized the font. Something so stupid, and I had this angry response ready to go, and I'm like, no, whatever, he can criticize the font, whatever, it's just no big deal. I'm just gonna let this go. It's easy to say get a thick skin, but that doesn't mean it's impervious. You need to take measures to protect your own mental health, and often that just means do not engage.
I totally agree, man. It's I have a public facing thick skin, where I can just say, well, thank you for playing, thanks for the review, I love you, and I'll do a little heart emoji. But when I go to bed and I'm staring at the fan at the ceiling, I'm like, I'm just pissed off. How could you critique my baby? I've been working on this thing for 3 years, and you're mad about the textures.
What about the characters and the writing and the plots and the puzzles?
I know.
You're freaking talking about this. Come on. What else do you like? Yeah, no, exactly what you mean.
Yep.
You want to know if the writing is reaching people, if it's resonating with people, and they're focused on the character walking a little slow or something like that. And it's oh, come on. What about the rest of it?
I know, but thank God for
you can't blame them. You can't blame them.
I know. And thank God for the Steam review system, because I think it's pretty solid. Even though you get some real nasty comments, you can just, all I look at is it very positive? Is it overwhelmingly positive? And that's all I care about. For me,
some people read every single review.
No, I don't touch it, dude. I
like seeing the number go up, and that's it. That number go up, and I'm happy.
I'll look at the original reviews, for the demo, and I noticed there's 2 ways to launch a demo on Steam that people should be aware of. There's the way you did it, and also the way that David Whaley did it. I don't know if you know David Whaley. He made a game called We Harvest Shadows. The way that you guys have launched your demos is it's attached to the main application, and there's no sub page.
Oh, I see. So it's like people can leave reviews.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and I say it like that, I say it in that voice because it's terrifying, because I released my demo last week with a secondary child page, and there's reviews on the demo, public facing reviews, and I didn't know this.
Oh.
And so I launched the demo last week, and I can show you how to do it if you want to do it. I don't know if you want to do it.
I probably don't. I probably don't, to be honest.
But anyway,
because it's like, then you have to encourage them to write a review a second time when the game launches.
Yeah. So anyway, for me, I launched my demo, and I started getting reviews, and I didn't expect to get reviews. And it was at 90%. And then it went down to 83% in an hour. And I was like, oh no, please God. And so I went to bed that night stressed because the velocity of the review, or the ratings of the reviews were going like this. And so I took a couple shots of vodka, went to sleep, and I woke up and I prayed to the Lord. I said, please God. And I opened up Steam, and I looked at the reviews, and it was 94% positive.
Nice.
And it was, and people were playing it. So now it's like almost at 500 reviews.
Yeah, wow. It's almost at 500.
It's
just
doing
checked.
good. Yeah, it's doing
445.
great.
Awesome.
And today we had 2 mega streamers play it. I can't remember their names. They're big though. They got like 4 million subscribers. So it's going really well, but I bring all that up because I didn't know that launching a demo was supposed to be as anxiety-inducing as a standard launch.
Wow, so like you said, you've been working on it for 3 years, right?
I know.
When I released the Old Skies demo, I released another demo in 2022. So I'd been working on it for about 2 years at that point. But it was a different section of the game, and it's the first time, for a long time, demos were like out. So I never bothered doing demos, but then suddenly Steam Next Fest is a thing and everyone's doing demos, and it's like, all right, I guess I'll join Next Fest and do this demo. Because it's like launching it, because suddenly your work is out there. And that's like, there's something very vulnerable about, this is why a lot of art and creative projects never get finished, is because people are scared. It's not perfect yet. It's got to be perfect, and they'll let perfect be the enemy of done.
Exactly.
And they need that stress of actually being vulnerable. It's something very scary about that. It's terrifying, and I'm still not used to it, especially now that this game has taken so long. It just feels like there's just more of my soul ready to be critiqued, and it's not the best feeling, but at the same time, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah.
Like when it works out, it's thus far my instincts have been more good than bad, and I'm forever grateful. I'm just happy that people resonate with my work, that it means something to them, and they continue to come back. It means the world.
Do you feel like?
But your original question was, what was my biggest fear?
Yes, I want to know what that is, by the way.
Well, my biggest fear is having to stop. Because I love doing it. Having to stop. Because I think I told you at the start of this that I hated the jobs I had. And I don't want to ever go back to that. I've seen a version of myself without this. I've seen a version of myself where I'm not a game developer, and I don't like that version of myself. And it terrifies me that one day, if everything just dissolves, or if everything just implodes somehow, like if I don't know, changes in technology, changes in whatever, I don't know. That, like the fact that social media is kind of imploding, that's scary, because suddenly it's like, that's how I did all my marketing, right? And so and the biggest worry is not so much that the games won't sell as well, but that I'll have to stop making them. That's all I ever want to do. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
I concur. I agree that that's probably my biggest fear. I think my first and foremost biggest fear is to be found out.
Found out, imposter syndrome kind of thing?
Yeah. It's this weird feeling of, Thomas, you really are just lying through your teeth. Nobody likes you.
Nobody knows what they're doing.
No,
absolutely nobody.
That's right.
No, I found. No, seriously,
it's this inner golem though that's like you are such a liar.
I found on YouTube once, like on my YouTube channel, I found this video that had been made private. It was from like 2008, and it was just like this dev log I did where I just talked about like my games and how I felt like like how I was selling them, what I was doing, and I at the time, I'm listening to myself, I'm watching myself, and I'm like, all right, you might have less gray hair, but you are an idiot. Because I everything I said was wrong. Goes against everything that I know now.
Yeah.
But I was so positive back then. I had been in business 2 years.
That's
and I
so
thought
funny.
I knew, like I cracked the code. This is how things need to be done. And I guess that's why I don't know if I ever made it public or what.
Yeah.
But I was so positive of myself back then.
Yeah.
And I pity anyone who might have taken my advice because I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. Like I've been lucky a lot of the time, and I am grateful for that. I'm grateful every day.
Yeah. And for me, part of my brand is I sort of basically just I've been doing YouTube for 7 years, I think. And part of my brand is just I say what I'm learning and I teach it, but it's so true what you're saying. I mean, I'll look back on videos I did and I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? And people are still watching it, so I'm like, maybe I need to take them down or something. But it's hard because I've heard people say you're an imposter. You have imposter syndrome because you just kind of are. Like you are an imposter in the sense that you're not going to know everything, and the version of you that wakes up tomorrow knows more than the version that you are now.
Yeah. And at the end of every project, often you'll think, oh, I would do everything differently. Of course you would, because you learned so much while you were doing the thing. Of course you would do everything differently.
Yeah.
You're always learning. You're always, if you stop learning, then what are you?
Yeah.
And I feel like, and that's probably why each subsequent game takes so much longer. Because I think about this. I think about the subject of instinct versus experience a lot, and how when I first started, I didn't have any experience. I had good instincts, but I just sort of you go with your gut. You don't know what you're doing. And I would just make stuff, and it was messy, and I just threw things together, and I'm like, yeah, this kind of works. Let's just go with it. And, for the most part, it worked out okay. People liked those games, but I didn't know what I was doing. But as I did more of them, I kind of developed a little mental checklist of, okay, here are the things I need to do.
Yeah.
And now when I make anything, I go through that checklist and I think, well, like I know like this doesn't work because I've learned that this doesn't work because of X game did this and people didn't like it, so right. I'm gonna try to adjust this and make this work, and I'll spend weeks thinking about it and then go back and I spent so much time thinking about every little bit and bob of it because I have that experience kind of getting in the way. And in a way I think it's good to have that experience. I think it makes the final product much better, but it can also prevent the product from getting done because I just think too damn much. And that's why this game has taken almost 5 years, because I think so deeply and carefully about every single part of the process, and people are going to say it sucks anyway. Like there are people who are going to not like it anyway. So like, I sometimes wonder, like, is it worth it?
Well,
I think that deep thought is what brings people back. I think it's not so much that people will play this game. Like there are a lot of other adventure games out there, and they're just based on the numbers that they release or just the numbers on Steam. They don't sell any better or worse than any of my games do typically. But I think what I try to do, like, I don't just want you to play this game. I want you to come back. I want you to play the next one as well. And so I want you to leave whatever game I create. I want you to leave with good feelings, so you remember to come back for the next one.
That's good.
That's what I always try to do.
You know, side note, or just to comment on what you said earlier about becoming less and less instinctive and more wisdom oriented, or it's like experience versus instinct. I think that's brilliant. I think about people like Kanye West. You know, it's like being impulsive in your 20s worked out for him. But I don't know if you saw what happened last week on Twitter, but like being impulsive when you're in your 50s or however old he is, it's like, bro, you don't have that instinct anymore. It's vanished. You only have that when you're in your 20s and 30s. Once you hit 40 and 50, or like I'm in my mid 30s and I'm already feeling this, like my radar or my spidey sense is just sort of dulling down a little bit. I don't fully have that courageous, impulsive, instinctive drive that I used to have when I was younger. But it should be, I think to your point, it should be replaced by wisdom and experience, right?
It should be. It should be, yes.
Yeah. So I definitely...
Plenty of people in their 50s do not have that instinct, and they just... I don't know. Like, I know sometimes, like, I know that, especially in 2020, there was a brief period of time where I was very angry on social media, and just because of the political climate and everything going on.
Yes.
And I realized quickly that I'm pissing people off who like potentially would buy my stuff.
Yep.
And B, it did not make me any happier or make me feel any better. I felt terrible, and it didn't solve anything. You know, it just it would never end. And so I stopped. And I think that was like the smartest thing I could do. Like if like I feel like I do have a platform, and occasionally if something does move me, I will say something, but there's no need to just, unless I'm helping somebody. Yeah. Venting on social media is pointless. Yeah. And well, I try to remember that even when people like don't like my stuff.
Sure. You know, there's different people, there's different people who have different roles in the world and in social media. Like sometimes some people should use their voice on social media. There's certain people who and that might not even be their job, but they should use their voice on social media and people can learn and grow from it. But there's other people who they're better suited telling their opinions through a game, for example, right? I was talking to Ken Levine about this. We were talking about politics and on social media. I said, how come you're so confident in your opinions when you express them through your characters, but you don't want to get opinionated on social media yourself? And he was like, well, it's just because, number one, my opinions changed. I don't even trust myself. But number two, I think he said something like his characters are more effective at telling his opinion than he is. You know?
Let the work speak for you. No,
That's right.
I totally can get that.
Yeah.
Totally get that.
Well, that brings me to my last question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So you've created a name for yourself. You've created a brand and a type of game that you basically make sort of BioWare type narrative games, right?
Well, one of them was BioWare-ish.
Okay.
Only Unavowed was like that.
Oh, okay. Point being, though, you've sort of stuck with this, and I know you don't like this because I watched an interview, this classic type of game making, right?
I get why people say it. I don't like to call myself that, but it's fine. Like if you want to call my stuff like, I don't like the term throwback or like golden age or whatever.
No, I don't
like
think
that.
it's a throwback. It's classic.
I could go with retro. Because it does. Most of the games do use pixel art, and that's fine. You know, like that's the aesthetic that it was like something that we could. It was an art style that we could make cheaply and quickly, and with an artist like Ben, he could make it sing. Well, so I'm fine with that moniker because like they're like it's not even pixel art isn't even retro anymore. It's this
a style.
Point, I mean the pixel art resurgence is retro. It's like it's been retro for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
it's not, I don't even know what you'd call it anymore. It's just a style.
Well, the reason I bring all that up is because you have grounded yourself in my opinion, a classic way of making games.
Mm-hmm.
But what does the future of the indie game industry look like in your opinion?
Oh my God.
Is there a place for you? And this is it's a sincere question, and it's the reason I ask is not because of you. Mm-hmm. I ask because of me. People are saying Thomas's next. They say Twisted Tower looks like a mid 2000s game, and they're actually giving it a compliment. But it's that same sort of, hey, Thomas is making a throwback, and I'm like, no, I'm just making the games I want to play.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is there not a place for me? Am I not modernized enough?
That's the interesting thing, because I do. Even though I don't like the retro throwback moniker, it is a point and click style adventure game. It uses those mechanics. It uses that kind of style.
Yeah.
It's familiar. And so there's this reputation that these games are only played by like middle-aged nostalgics. And I'm always amazed when I end up chatting with folks who are like really young. When they're like early 20s or like they're even teenagers occasionally, like they are, and they discover games like this and they want to make them, or they like my stuff. I think that the fact that you're making the game you want to play is the most important thing, because again, it's got to be sincere. If you're chasing what's popular, it won't be sincere. 2, that there's easier ways to earn a living, and 3, like companies with millions of dollars to burn spend have whole teams of staff trying to figure out what's popular, engaging the market, and even they get it wrong.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't have a prayer in trying to like gauge or foresee what's going to be popular. It's just, I don't have that crystal ball. Nobody does. And all I can do is focus on what makes me happy. Because, and this is a little esoteric, and like some people, like at the end of the day, you got to be. It is a business at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
But there are easier businesses to run. I wouldn't be doing this unless I enjoyed it.
Right.
And I wouldn't have been doing it for so long if there wasn't a market for it. Gotcha. I don't think it's going to magically dry up. But that said, I do wonder, just like. The way games are consumed, the way they're bought and consumed is changing. Just even in the 6-7 years or so since Unavowed, I'm keeping a close eye on like stuff like Game Pass, because like if like streaming services for games become the way people play games, then I'm gonna have to change how I do everything.
I know.
And because if like I don't like the idea of being paid once for my game, and that's all the money it's ever going to earn. Even if it's a even if it's a large amount,
I know
that large amount is going to go down over time.
But the Game Pass deals suck.
Do they? I don't own an Xbox.
They do. They used to. Well, it depends on what you're looking for, but I know they went from. I'll speak super generic here, so I don't get in trouble. Whether it's Apple Game Pass or PlayStation Plus or whatever, it used to be like you'd get $500,000.
Yeah.
The
deals. That's what I'm talking about. The deals that for the developers. Yeah, yes, that number has gone down.
And then it's gone down to sometimes $50,000.
Oh my God.
Which people listening right now, that's infinite money. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It gets taxed to hell. You spend it on your team and it's gone.
That doesn't even cover most budgets. Like even mine, it wouldn't cover my budgets. No.
Yep.
Like that's like I guess like most of our budget goes to burn time.
Yep.
Just wow, that's nothing.
I'll go out on a limb and say that just to comment on what you said, and then I'll shut up. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I don't think the subscription model is going to be for the games industry.
Okay,
I've heard that the Xbox and PlayStation,
hoping you're right,
don't really like it. Like I don't think it's serving their business model right now.
Interesting. Okay.
Why would they be paying less? I guess maybe they'd be paying less
because there's too many. Probably because there's too many.
So I don't know. My gut is that dude, remember when you said like demos are back for some reason?
Yes.
It makes me wonder, is it all going back to like the mid 2000s where it's like you sell your games for 15, 20 bucks and you put it on a shelf of a storefront, not like physical, but like on Steam. And that's how you make your money. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no weird tricks. There's no whatever you call it, the subscription model. That's gone. I hope so, dude. I don't want it to become the Spotify of games. Like, that would be horrible.
I also was worried that like mobile would completely take over.
It didn't.
Like everything is going to be on phones and iPads, and no, people still buy stuff on Steam.
Nope.
And that's great. You know, that like. Yeah. But yeah, like I for now, like things seems to be working, but it's like, will things change? You know, and that usually just depends on you know how. You know, just how the technology changes and just the way people buy games and stuff. That's always, that's always my worry, that like, it'll be, if things do implode, it'll be through like no fault of my own.
Yeah.
It'll just be, you know, Gabe and retires, sells Valve to someone who just doesn't care and will just gut the place, you know, and just like wreck everything up. You know, that's the end of me. Cause and of a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So we all live through that fear.
I love to sort of wrap up here, Dave.
Sure.
I love what you've done in the sense that one of the things that I learned last year was I had all these people telling me, Thomas, you need to add skill trees or add extra mechanics to your game, or you need to make it more dynamic or do all this modern stuff. And I eventually told everybody, I'm just going to focus on story.
Yeah.
And it's worked out for me. And so I admire what you've done, where story seems to be your focus, your characters.
Well, that's all that point and clicks have, really. It's like, what else? Why else would you play one? And, you know, there's, I mean, maybe the puzzles, but I find if I don't have like a motivation or a reason to like push forward. I played a game. Oh God, I'm not going to mention the name because I do like the game. It's a beautiful game. It's so much fun. It's a platformer kind of thing, and it's beautiful, gorgeous pixel art, just amazing. But the story was incomprehensible. It was like proper noun after proper noun, like fantasy-ish name after fan. I'm like, I have no idea what the crap is going on. But the game was fun. It kept me going. But I'm like, every time a cutscene happened, I'm like I felt like it would have been so much more engaging if that backstory and all like the actual story was streamlined and made a little bit more accessible, because the game was so much fun. But I think like the actual story was so muddled, and like someone was just too enamored of like, you know, they obviously made like a family tree of their fantasy world, and by God, they were going to use the whole thing.
That's right. That's right.
Like it was one of those, but the game itself was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's just the story is what keeps you invested.
Would you agree that, Dave? Would you agree that less is more in storytelling?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Meanwhile, Old Skies is the longest game I ever made. But we won't go there.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, man, and I want to let everybody know to wish.
Me too, man.
To play the demo, wishlist the game. It's so the link is in the description for that demo, and I hope everybody listening goes down there and plays it. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Thomas, this is a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate your time. Take it easy. Oh, and really quickly, by the way, this video is sponsored by myself. I sponsor my own videos sometimes. It's sponsored by Full Time Game Dev. If making indie games full-time is a dream of yours in 2025, I can teach you what I've done. I've signed 3 publishing deals for my commercial indie games, along with getting funded multiple times on Kickstarter. I've also hit the Steam front page multiple times, so I want to show you how I've done this and ultimately make games in Unity, Godot, Unreal, 2D or 3D. You can honestly take your pick in the course. You also learn how to market your game so it brings in actual money, and so much more. For the next 7 days, Full Time Game Dev is 40% off for the massive spring sale. And this only happens once a year. This is a big one. Join 4,500 students worldwide, and I'll also throw in my 2D and 3D art programs completely free, but only for this sale event. And also, there's only 100 seats available. These will sell out, so be sure to check it out below if you're interested.